Kala, let me start with a question that must be on everyone's lips, I think. They heard you recite haiku, they saw Mugdha dance to haiku, and of course they responded to the haiku charades. So just tell us briefly what haiku is about, because a lot of us are not really tutored in the craft of haiku. So it's something from a different culture, you know, Japanese culture. So yes, just tell us in a short, yes, digestible chunk what haiku means.
Well, haiku is one poetry form that has no definition. I cannot possibly tell you this is what haiku is about. Books and books have been written, and haiku poets, there are 3 haiku poets, we are still learning the craft. So ultimately, it is a concise, brief, and very, very succinct form of poetry. Alan Watts has said, it is the most sophisticated form of poetry because the poets know when to stop.
Yeah.
So that's my answer.
Brief and short, succinct as you said.
Yes.
So I'm sure we are a little wiser, but I don't know how much. So double clicking on that again, Kala?
It is a 400-year-old art form from Japan.
Yeah.
And it was very popular those days. And slowly it lost its importance till Basho brought it, revived it. And we all revere Basho as one of the, as one of the masters who knew how to write haiku. And once you come to know about it, you fall in love with this form because it is so brief and still so much is being said, like you would have noticed it. You know, if you have to paraphrase a haiku, you would have been writing 3/4 of a page. How is that in 7 words, in 8 words, 9 words, a poet is able to say, pack in so much? Because for one thing, it has craft. We are not talking about the craft today because it's going to take you hours and hours to understand. But I'll tell you one small thing. When a student went to the Japanese master to teach them haiku, the Japanese, those days, I've only read, the Japanese master would give them a big book which is called Saijiki, which has seasonal references. He'll say, learn this, study this for 4 years and come and see me after that and I'll teach you haiku. So the importance, that is just one aspect, the seasonal reference. Then you have the cut, how to juxtapose 2 images together. So if you want to go into the theory part of it, it's not possible. But how did we all come to like it? That's what we were all talking the other day.
Yeah.
How did we come to like haiku? Just by reading, and something clicked and we started liking it. Then you go deeper into any art form, whether it is music or whether it is dance. You like Bharatanatyam, but you go deeper into understanding the mudras and the deeper into that aramandi, the way they sit, you know, the legs should come like this, it can't be straight. Right from that, the purpose of doing that, everything takes years and years and years. So, in a brief, to say in a crystal ball, I'm presenting a very brief type of poetry, which once you come to learn, once you come to understand, once you come to appreciate it, is addictive. We are all addicts here. The 3 poets who are still sitting here are addicts, sheer addicts to this short form of poetry.
Yeah.
I hope I've answered.
Yes, you have, certainly, certainly. So Kala, tell me, you just touched upon it a little bit. What made you gravitate towards a Japanese genre of poetry, being an Indian poet? And I remember the other day, yesterday when we were talking, you said that you had trained in classical vocal music for almost 2 decades. And you said you needed to do a lot of riyaz to, you know, hone your singing. But with haiku, you said, I sort of very comfortably, you know, went into that rhythm of writing haiku.
You said it so beautifully.
Tell us a little about that. Huh?
I was, from childhood, all I wanted to be was a musician. First a veena in Carnatic, then Hindustani classical. I learned from Kumar Gandharva's student for 19 years before I started performing. She was another perfectionist. She didn't allow me to perform for 19 years. And then she says, yes, you're ready. And by that time, I felt, after 4 years, I felt I needed education, I needed backing. Pune is not an easy place. Pune is full, the seat of Hindustani classical. It's very difficult to make a mark. And for a person who's bad at Hindi, I'm bad at Hindi. So it didn't work, even though I went to so many teachers to learn, like she's learning Tamil now. Okay, I went to so many people in Aund and in Thing to understand Kabir's each and every word, so that when I'm on stage, I'm confident about the meaning. Okay, but it didn't work. And then it so happened, I wrote a poem, and it was online. I went and saw it, and it was a poem which I didn't know how to write poems at all. I've never written, in fact, in my life. It was always music. And then that poetry said, it flashed when I went to that site, it flashed about Burmese climbing verses and haiku. So I downloaded both. And that's how I entered. It's serendipity. That's how it is. I entered the haiku field. And then in almost 6 months, I started getting awards. It's possible. Because 3 months, 4 months, you study that art, it's possible to do it. And then it's lifelong. Now it's 19, 20 years, I'm still learning how to write haiku. But it happens that you start publishing, and that is like a drug addict. Really, I'm telling you, it's a drug. Because at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, unfortunately, in 2005 when I came, we didn't have Indian magazines to promote haiku. Haiku was hardly known here. And Japanese forms were, Japanese papers and journals were there, but we didn't have internet that way. I was not very fluent with the internet. So there was no way we could sort of get our poems published. And then you find that certain journals are there to promote, and you start sending your poems without knowing, and the editor of 20 years, 30 years of experience will tell you, this is not haiku, this is not haiku. So through the eyes of the editor, you hone your talents. And that is how we all came up. And now it's much, much better, because there are workshops, the Facebook is there, and plenty of groups are there, and our own Triveni Haikai India group is there, website. So it is possible to understand this. It's not an easy form. Just like karate, you learn for 10 years before you get your black belt. For bonsai, you learn for many, many years before you understand how to play with emptiness. It is not easy, because even here we are doing all that. We are playing with emptiness, with 7 words in a whole page. What is 7 words? We are playing. But there is craft and there is science behind it. But it is not rocket science. Anybody can do it. If I can do it and she can do it, everyone can do it. So I'm hoping that a few of you will step into this field and attempt how to write a haiku.
Right.
Yes.
Certainly. So Kala, I've read some of your Doha haikus, and today you read out a Doha tanka also. Yes. So of course we saw a beautiful collaboration of haiku and dance, but bringing 2 different genres from different cultures would have been a little difficult. Doha is typically Indian, goes back to the Bhakti movement, and haiku, of course, as we all know, is Japanese. So how did you meld these 2 different,
I don't know,
genres with different cultures, coming from different cultures?
See, it is not a question of, someone said, they don't like the word fusion. Because in Chennai we used to call it confusion. It's not correct, but it is. I think a synthesis, like I think she was talking about it, a synthesis would be a better term to put in. Okay, so we always go from something known to the unknown. For me, music was my life till I was 50 years old. Music was my life. I didn't even do college education. I didn't do correspondence, long distance learning. It was music the whole time. So Doha is something that Kabir is a master at.
Yes, absolutely.
And tanka is not like haiku. Tanka is 5-line poetry, which 3 lines is 1 verse, the top verse and the bottom verse, both mixed together with the juxtaposition. But as much as it's an outside feeling, the last 2 lines are about personal. It's about what I feel. The inner world of the poet comes into the poem. When that happens, I thought it has 5 lines to lend itself more, and I said one more. We do have sequences. I have not invented the whole thing. We do have sequences, but sequences were generally 5 verses. It was never 2. I thought 2 verses, 5 lines, and a space and 5 lines will work wonders to tell. In 10 lines, I can tell a much better story, like the father and the mother, the father's attitude and the mother's attitude. Yeah. And so much is there. The children, she's mentioned the children there, she's mentioned the patients. So much of a world is created in those 2 verses to coming together. So I've been writing Tanka Doha, and it is not according to the matras, it's not according to what Kabir had said. Yeah. It is taking tanka as a form of art and getting 2 tanka together. So I don't know whether it is, I mean, everyone is free to create what they want in this world of art. So I've just done it, but then magazines have been accepting it, and I know one poet who's been attempting to write Tanka Doha also, but I've been writing for the last 10 years. I've been writing Tanka Doha.
Yeah, so that reminds me of Kabir's Doha, you know, Nindak niyare rakhiye, aangan kuti chhawaye, bin pani sabun bina, nirmal kare subhaye.
Yes.
So it just came to me when you were discussing this, talking about Doha and Tanka, you know.
Yes.
Okay, so next we move to the next question, which is brevity, they say, is the soul of wit. But clearly brevity is the soul of haiku. It's such a compact, you know, precise form. So tell me, if you have some kind of a profound idea that you want to explore through haiku, how do you do that in such a brief and precise form? Because there's that aha moment. I had so many aha moments while you were reading out your haiku.
Yes, yes.
So how do you go about that?
See, it has craft, and craft is the juxtaposition of 2 images in haiku. So how do you place the craft is done by a cut. Cut means, in Japanese we call it kirei. Kirei means the cut. Okay? I read a very interesting story about a Japanese woman who's a very well-known poet now. She says, I don't want to repeat her name because I get it all wrong. I get the Japanese names very wrong, so I won't even attempt it. But she's very well known, and she said that Japanese women, cut is something that Japanese women never understood. So those days, if you see, it was Basho, Issa, Buson and Shiki were the 4 masters of haiku. Till my Symbiosis student said, was there no woman at all? And then I went and searched, I'm talking about 2012. Okay, I searched and then I found Chioni. Now everybody talks about Chioni as the 5th master. But when I came, it was only the 4 masters, the 4 pillars. Okay? So she says that cutting in haiku is very difficult. Okay, and women were not equipped with cutting. We were meant to sacrifice. If there's no food, she'll go without food, and so that she'll see that the family ate. Okay, so she says, and they were not aggressive enough to even tell their name. It was always Mrs. Takiguchi or Mrs. someone else. She says, I would have lived for years and years with a neighbor, I'll be calling her Mrs. Takiguchi. She says, I won't even ask her name. She went nameless. And it so happens that even my grandmother was not called by name. She was always called Mrs. Chinnaswamy. Oh. It happened everywhere at that age. So she says, how can we write haiku well? How can a woman come up and write haiku? Because it needs a cut. It needs a cut comes with a sternness and a cutthroatism. You need to cut. Now let me tell you exactly what a cut is. Rainforest, the lives. Rainforest, there's a cut. The lives I step on. Did you see the poem? Rainforest, the lives. You see so many lives in the rainforest, right, left, everywhere there is life. But rainforest you cut, because that's a different image altogether. The lives I step on. I'm wearing my shoes. I just walk. I say, beautiful, look at the leaves, look at the flowers, look at the bottom. Here I'm stamping, left, right, center, I'm stamping and killing all the insects and all the life. Okay? So that has created a cut to give a different picture, to make the whole picture full. If it's not rainforest, if it's just, say, a stroll, after dinner stroll, the lives I step on doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. So it's how two images are put together, and how the cut happens and where the cut happens, that the haiku becomes whole, and the haiku lends itself to a much deeper interpretation than just mere 6 words or 7 words. 6 or 7 words, how much can you give? You can't give much.
Right. So I promised a short conversation, so I think one last question and I'll wrap up the conversation. Just tell us how you envisage haiku in India, because although it's recently picked up in popularity, and in fact it's been written in various languages. I saw a few written in Hindi as well.
Plenty.
Yeah. So, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us, how do you envisage the growth of haiku in India? Because it's still not a part of mainstream poetry yet. And we have a lot of people, you know, sort of sticking up their noses at haiku. They feel it's not regular poetry, you know.
It was in 2006, I went to a poetry festival, and then I heard a person saying, a very good publisher and a very good poet, was saying, we keep haiku at a distance. It hurt me a lot, because I was just 1 year into haiku, and I wanted the whole of India to understand what haiku is, and I wanted everyone to appreciate haiku, and I was in that mood, and that hurt me a lot. Okay? Now it's not so. Things have changed the last 15 years. People respect us. The same editor smiles at me and says, yes. Yes, so things have changed. But when I came in 2005, it was an accident, I told you. I wrote a long poem, and then I happened to see this, and I started writing. And one poet, a German, her name was Gabby Grieve. She wrote to Susumu Takiguchi, who was in London. And he was the he was the founder of the World Haiku Review, and said that she's there from India. So he sent a long form, and the last question was, what do you want to do with haiku? I said, I'm so bitten by this bug. Okay, I want every Indian to understand what haiku is. And he said, Kala, I've been searching for someone like this for the last 15 years. Can we start World Haiku, World Haiku Club India? And will you be the facilitator? So that's how it started. And I think had Susumu Takiguchi didn't pull me into this, I wouldn't have been able to create or bring my dream to fulfillment, because he paved a path. It was a Google Yahoo group. He gave me 20 members, I made it 45 members, and then slowly I made it Hamara Haiku, and then it turned to Triveni. It morphed into different verses and ultimately words, and ultimately it is called Triveni Haikai India. It has almost 600, 700 members, and all over the world. And Triveni is, it's like the Ganga, Yamuna and Saraswati coming together. Yeah. It is Japan, India and the rest of the world coming together.
Yes.
So that is
3 cheers to that.
Triveni Haikai India. Absolutely. And it's doing very well. On 1st of December, we are celebrating the 3rd anniversary of Triveni Haikai India, and we bring out a monthly journal called Haikai India. Haiku Katha, because Katha, as you know, in all our languages is storytelling. Yes. And haiku is storytelling in its own way. So it is the 3rd anniversary, and it has grown, and poets are coming in They every day they're pouring in and they want to know what is this magic word haiku, and it's happening.
Thank you, Kala. That was a delightful conversation.
Thank you. And I must thank I must thank Rachna and the wise owl for the amount of enthusiasm, the amount of exposure they're giving haiku poets. Our poets, Nina here is doing so much in Chandigarh. We have Vandana, who's an excellent poet. She's won awards left, right, center. And so I keep away from her when it's survey. She's too good. So we have Muskan. We have very good poets in Chandigarh. Such excellent poets, such a good group of poets, and we are reading tomorrow. We are reading our poems tomorrow. So if you're free, come over. It's from 11 o'clock to 12 o'clock.
At the Rotary House.
At the Rotary House.
Sector 18.
Yes.
So, all right, I have just one question for the audience now. A kind of a feedback question. You know, you saw the Bharatnatyam performed to haiku. So it is said that when two beautiful art forms, you know, collaborate, the beauty of both is enhanced. So tell me, was your poetic experience enhanced because of the collaboration of Bharatnatyam dance and haiku?
Yes.
So I think 3 cheers.
Lovely.
Kala.
Lovely. Thank you so much.